Sure. Yeah, Brian, when the season ends, you guys have the most points in franchise history, getting that in the last game. Just what does that mean for you as a coordinator when over the course? I mean, obviously, in a year there's going to have its up and downs, but the final body of work is this team has scored more points and just
It takes me back. It takes me back to all the hard work that we've done, all the time and energy that we spent, Zoom meetings, training camp, uh, being here at the facility and doing Zoom meetings and having the players right down the hall, but you can't be with them. It's awesome. You know, you look back and you think about all the things we've done and the different ways we've found ways to win games. But really, I think it just speaks to these guys and the way they've worked, the way they've listened. It's a special group, John. I talk about each and every week. It's a special group, and they deserve all the accolades. So very, very proud of the group. Probably more proud of that than any of the individual accomplishments. Those are all great. But the fact that this unit did something that's never been done before by the Seahawks organization, it's pretty special. I know the guys are proud of it.
Joe Fan.
Hey Brian, on Sunday, Pete mentioned in games against good defense like you've had lately, there's a he called it a patience to the game that you know maybe fans don't want to see, but it's just kind of part of it. Maybe this kind of feeling out process. Do you agree with that? Can you maybe explain that more? And is there something to that to where you don't want to make that big mistake early that puts you in a hole and you can go back and forth and kind of feel it out for a bit?
Yeah, well, I think the term patient is you you have to be patient, Joe. I mean, sometimes it maybe you're not trying to be patient, but the defense is doing something that makes you patient, or they take things away that you're like, man, I thought we'd hit that big one, but that didn't happen. So, you talk always going into every game about you've got a mindset of how it's going to play out, but you don't know, and you don't know how teams are going to adapt and adjust, and so the word patient, I think it happens. There's some games you go into and you think, hey, it's going to be a battle, and you come off and you have a great start, and next thing you know, you got 17 points in the first quarter. Then there's other games where you're going against an opponent and you're like, well, we didn't see this coming, and it becomes where you work yourself through the problem. The thing I think that we're pleased with is the last couple of weeks going up against some good defenses. It took us a little while to get started, but we made some adjustments. We did some things. There was never any panic. Our guys were poised. They knew that we would sort through the issues, and I think you've seen us do that in the fourth quarter and have these last couple games where we've been able to do that. So, again, I wish that there was a script for how the game goes. Everybody talks about a scripting, and you have these openers of what you script, but there's some games where you go into in your script and you look back at it that night or the next morning, you're like, well, that didn't work the way I thought it would, or they played a different defense there. So I think that's what I would say from a patience standpoint is the unknown, not knowing how the game's going to unfold.
And then I don't know if you're at liberty to say, but have you been contacted for any official head coach interviews?
Yeah, right now I'm just focused on trying to find a way to beat the Rams.
Thanks, Brian.
Corbin.
Hey, Brian, a couple weeks ago when you guys won that game in Week 16, your tight ends had 51 receiving yards and a touchdown in the game. When you look at this particular opponent, considering the talent they have outside at corner, how important is it for you guys to get Olsen, Hollister, Disley involved in the passing game?
Well, I think, as you look at it, they are excellent on the perimeter. They're excellent on the edges. Again, we don't force those things, but they're built into the progressions. We know that those guys are going to have their opportunities. They get singled a little bit more than, say, the receivers do at times. There's different double teams and things that these guys do a nice job of. So we obviously feel good about when they get their opportunities, they get the one-on-ones, which they get quite a bit of. They have to make the plays. Case in point, Jake, on the last play of the game, really for us, right? He was isolated on the young safety Fuller and made a terrific play. But again, not by himself. Freddie was involved, so they're a big part of what we're trying to do all the time. But again, one ball, you never know where it's going to get spread around, but they will capitalize when given those opportunities.
Ben.
Hey, Shotty, this is kind of along the lines of Joe's patience question, but as you guys enter the playoffs, how would you assess the way Russell's season, just in his ability to adjust and adapt to how the defenses have been playing you guys differently through the last, through the whole season? Taking away the deep balls, you've talked about that, but how would you assess how he's been able, like in game, to adjust and adapt on the fly to what the coverages are.
Yeah, I think that's a great scope to look back, Ben, when you look at it, right? I mean, he sets the, whatever it was, all-time record, fastest touchdowns, and whatever that is, right? I talk ebbs and flows all the time because that's what you deal with during the course of a season, and then during the course of a game, there's ebbs and flows, right? But you look at the hot start that we had, right? Then you take some of the turnover issues that we started having, right? And you're like, okay, well, how do we fix this? How do we do that? Then we get our backs back healthy, and people are playing us a little different. So the explosive, the bombs that everybody's used to seeing, those aren't there. But when you look at Russ and you look at our offense and you look at what we've been able to do against some really good defensive opponents the last couple weeks, finishing games, fourth quarter efficiency, making things happen, making the adjustments, that's what I'm proud of. I think you look back to the middle of the season and we didn't maybe adjust and adapt as quickly as we're doing now as a group, all of us, coaches, players alike, the communication. And I think you see us, again, having the ability to win games in a different fashion. Would we love to go and score 40 points against the Rams? Absolutely. Do we think that's going to happen? It's going to be difficult. They're really good. But being able to adjust and play the game as it unfolds is important. The thing I'm most proud of, right, is the way we've taken care of the football. I think Pete mentioned today to the group, NFL or franchise record, right? Least amount of fumbles in a season. That's cool. We're proud of that. The way we carry the football is important to us. The way we teach it, we have a different standard, and we upheld that. So, again, I think Russ's season, our season, is a cool illustration of the journey and what the journey looks like. And now we're getting ready to start the second half of the season, the playoffs, and who knows how it's going to play out. We don't know. That's what makes the game so exciting.
Thanks.
Bob?
Yeah, Brian, I was just going to ask one more sort of along that. There's so much emphasis on the big plays, and you guys did get so many explosive plays early, and they've been harder to come by late. Is it important to get those from any standpoint, or does it matter how you get your yards? You know, ultimately, if you get yards.
Well, yeah, I think it certainly helps you score points. You know, you get big explosive plays, and it puts points on the scoreboard, or it switches momentum. But we've shown, Bob, that we can do it the other way as well. We can kind of, you know, if they make us throw it underneath or run the football, we can still go and execute. I mentioned last week, one of the things that, you know, we need to be better at is we need to control the football more offensively. You know, I think this is the third straight game that we were at 27 minutes. You're going to have limited opportunities for explosives. And where does that start? That starts with us being better on third down in the first half of football games. We have to be better. Otherwise, you go out there and you come up short on third down, then you come off, and it's hard to get into a rhythm. So we can score points regardless, but what the chunk plays give you, or the explosives, is it big momentum swings where, you know, there's a tangible, you feel it, right? There's a sensation that you actually feel that you can usually capitalize on.
Greg Bell.
Hi, Brian. How much more is there to unleash in Chris Carson? And how much has he yet been short of 100%?
You know, I think Chris feels really good. I think you see the way he's running, Greg. I've not seen him run with this much confidence, this much determination. Just pull up some of the runs where we get him to the second level, and see him challenge safeties, see him challenge, corners trying to come off blocks at the second level. I've not seen that consistently from him, so I think he's becoming the punisher, right? A lot of times it's the backs that take all these tough hits. He's becoming the more aggressor in those situations. And then I think him getting back, what you would love to see, we'd love to see, is him getting more involved in the passing game early in the season, right? 3 or 4 touchdowns early. Again, he's back now. He's feeling good, so he's running really good routes and things like that. So, again, I've not asked him. What I see in practice, he looks great. And all backs this time of year are going to be beat up. You know, it's a physical game. But I think he looks great right now.
Michael Sean.
Hey, Brian, we see KJ Wright sniff out defenses plays pretty much every other week. Does that ever happen to you when you call stuff against him in practice, or maybe in camp, but more specifically?
Yeah, all the time. There's always the defense is always looking for tells. It's amazing. They look for a lineman's stance. They look at how firm his hand's in the ground, a tackle stance, an alignment of a back. And when you've played as much football as a KJ or a Bobby has, it's amazing how fast they dissect things. And it's like you almost, when you're especially practicing, you're watching it and you're 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, you're like, okay, this play's got no chance. They're on it. But there's good training in that. For example, screen plays, right? A lot of times in practice, you drop back and you throw a screen and it's a completion and the quarterbacks are relaxed. Well, when you're going up against a guy like KJ, a lot of times it trains the quarterbacks that when they do get covered, what's your response? And your response, the correct response, is to dirt it and throw it at the guy's feet because it's a rule that allows you to do that. You're allowed to basically intentionally ground the ball at the running back's feet. So it trains you in those regards. But it is amazing, these veteran guys that are great players, students of the game, how quick they diagnose things.
Thanks.
Jackie.
Hey, Shotty. We've talked a lot about Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. And so my question is, how, with the attention that you have to give Donald, how does that open up other players on their defense?
Well, I mean, you certainly pay a lot of attention to Aaron. You have to. He's a terrific player. They do a nice job of trying to isolate you into one-on-one blocks. The front structure and the things that they do, they make you basically block things straight across the board, and they get a bunch of one-on-one matchups. They do a terrific job of running games and things where they cross, right? He starts on one side, and then they bring the guy across, and then he loops around. Okay, you call it a stunt or a game. I think Leonard Floyd's a great example. Leonard's having a terrific year. Leonard's a great player, but certainly people are paying a lot of attention to Aaron. He gets matchups, gets one-on-ones, great motor, so he's a great example of a guy that benefits from it. But they're more than just Aaron. They've got a terrific defense, a terrific unit. They're well coached, and it'll be fun to go up against them again.
Brady.
Hey, Brian, what do you think of the change in the play call in the second to last play Sunday to get David Moore the ball?
Well, it's funny, Brady. We had actually talked about it, and we had it circled and ready to go a little bit later. But Demo deserves it. I mean, Demo's been working his butt off. Made huge plays. Go back to the Rams game. He kind of ignited us in the second half. Very safe play call, very easy play call. I was happy to see him get that. That was one of the things when you looked at, there was a number of milestones available, but we were excited for Demo, and it was cool that it came off that way.
And I'm just curious, what is the role of a quarterback's coach on game day, like Austin, and is that any different than it typically is in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of a sounding board. They're a sounding board for the quarterback. They talk, hey, what are you seeing? Hey, what are you thinking? They go through, the Microsoft Surface tablets that we have. They go through all the different coverages and things, and these are adjustments. When I'm up in the box, it makes it, Austin is a good tie to me. Some of Russ's thoughts. Russ and I still do talk, but biggest thing's a sounding board for the quarterback. Hey, what's he feeling? What's he like? Yeah, hey, we really feel like this is working great. Let's make sure we come back to that. So it's kind of again, with the coordinator being in the box, it's kind of a go-between, whereas you didn't have that when you're down on the field. Russ and I would do that ourselves, but AD does a terrific job of it.
Thanks.
Curtis.
Yeah, Brian, the Rams know you guys, you know them. You're playing them for a third time this year. What is it like to game plan for a team that you know? What's different about a game plan against a division rival when you're seeing for a third time in a season compared to maybe some of the other games you played in the year?
Well, on a short week like this, the Saturday kickoff, it's actually a good thing because you know them, right? You know them, you know the way they play, you know the style, you know the people. Imagine if you're playing a little bit of a different opponent on a short week, maybe that you're not as familiar with. You're in a little bit more of a scramble mode. I mean, we know the faces. We know, okay, Aaron's going to be there, and then there's Brockers, and there's Leonard, and there's the linebackers. Okay, Jalen's going here, he's going there. I think it's a benefit because we do understand each other, and we literally just played whatever it was 10 days ago. This actually happened in New York back in 2009, I think. We beat the Bengals to force to get in the playoffs. Then we turned around 6 days later and played them again. We went from New York to Cincinnati. So I think it's a benefit. They're still great, but it's a benefit because at least we know them and we're familiar with their personnel and a little bit of their scheme.
Omar.
Nope.
Omar, you there? You on mute? All right, Chris Francis.
Hey, Brian. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the term security blanket. Is that just kind of a media thing? And would Tyler Lockett be considered that role on this team if there was such a thing?
You know, I've never used that term, Chris. The thing I say about Tyler is over the years, he and Russ have created such a great rapport with one another. You guys all saw the play. Literally, we hit the exact play in the exact same spot on the exact down on 4th down to Tyler. I don't know which catch was better. Maybe the one against Arizona was better. Again, there's penetration. Russ is having to move. I mean, does he throw that to every person and hit it? Probably not. He and Tyler have thrown that ball so many times. You see it in practice. I mean, I guarantee you he could do it with his eyes shut. So there's a trust. And the thing that Tyler has that I probably don't speak of enough here, he's so fast. Like, you forget how fast he is. So he can lay the ball to a spot, Chris, and Tyler runs and gets it, whereas not everybody have that ability to turn on that extra gear and go get that play. But that's a really cool illustration of Russ having to move, a lot like he did against Arizona, throw it to a spot, and I'll trust Tyler to go make that play. So it's acquired over years of work and timing and throwing and talking. It doesn't happen overnight, which is why you see it a lot of times with veteran-type players that guys have played together for a long time.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.